Children's books are not reflecting the diversity of modern Britain. Now, according to a study for the charity, the Centre for Literacy in Primary Schools, just 1% of books have a main character who is black or minority ethnic, when British classrooms have almost a third of students from minority ethnic origins. Well, let's talk to award-winning author Mary Ononokpono. Good to see you this morning. I'm surprised at this in a sense that when I was a kid, this wouldn't have been a surprise, but now less than 1% seem. Why are black or ethnic minority main characters not being used more?
I think there are several reasons for that. I think it begins in primary school. Education is a separate industry, but it's linked to publishing. So when I was a child in primary school, yeah, as you say, there weren't many books with black and minority ethnic characters centred. So I think children are not necessarily seeing themselves reflected in certain industries, beginning with teachers, and then it extends to agents, editors, authors. So I think there's that. And I also think the gatekeepers ought to do a lot more.
So who would you consider to be a gatekeeper?
The publishers, the agents, the editors. Yeah, they need to be a lot more proactive in terms of doing outreach work in schools and then giving opportunities to black and minority ethnic authors. Also, I'm not necessarily expecting non-black authors to centre black characters, but I think there's a problem of representation. There are voices out there, but they're not necessarily being heard.
So what about your experiences? Because, you know, you're a successful author. I know you just completed your debut adult novel, is that right?
I'm finalising that.
Finalising it,
yeah.
But you've also written plenty of other material.
Yeah.
When you go and speak to publishers or you're trying to sound out stories, what kind of reception are you getting?
It's a mixed bag, basically. I think publishers are less willing to take, they're risk averse, basically. They don't want to take risks on non-celebrities. There was an article that came out this week which stated that the publishing industry is doing well, but authors are seeing a smaller and smaller percentage of profits from book sales. And this is linked with the diversity, the diversity issue. So if established authors, one of the authors named was the author of Chocolat. So if people of that calibre are struggling to earn profits from their books, then how much more difficult is it going to be for black and minority ethnic writers?
I mean, what strikes me as all this is there will be people, and I don't think out of any sort of nastiness, or just from a lack of understanding, really, will think, well, why does it matter with children's books? Why does it matter? But actually, isn't it fair to say that children, to get the best out of a book and to start expanding your mind, a child needs to be able to relate to a book and to its characters?
Absolutely. Every single child deserves to see themselves reflected back in literature. Literature, it shows you your possibilities. Yeah, it demonstrates possibilities, basically. So I think it's disgraceful that we're still in this.
Because you have a daughter.
Yes.
Is she 12?
She's 12.
12. So what's her experiences of reading at the moment? Does she see enough role models of herself or not at all when it comes to reading?
Not really.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I started writing fiction at all was because I wanted to address that.
So yeah, writing for your daughter?
Yeah, I was essentially writing my daughter into fiction. Yeah, so that she could see her experience and other children like her as well could see their experience reflected back to them. I didn't see any of that at all as a child. There were black and minority ethnic books. My heritage is Nigerian. There were no books detailing Nigerian British experience, for example. So even within that 1%, certain groups will be getting more focus than others.
Yeah, mind you, I must imagine writing for your daughter must be an absolute nightmare.
It's a
pain. She'll be your worst critic, won't she?
What a great idea, though.
Yeah, it is good.
The beginning is something special.
I'll tell you what I'm intrigued about, though, now, because you mentioned it, is the adult book.
Okay.
Give us a taster.
Okay, so
because I'm always looking for new books.
I'm not telling you about my debut adult novel. I can tell you about my forthcoming collection of short stories.
Oh, go on, then.
So that's centred, it's predominantly historical fiction. It's set primarily in West Africa and in the 17th century. So it deals with African culpability in the transatlantic slave trade.
Right.
So yeah, and then there are other things in there as well. So it draws upon a lot of Ibibio and Efik cosmology. Yeah.
Wow,
Look
I'm
forward to reading
intrigued.
that.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I think it's really interesting. I think we all need to expand. I think books are just a brilliant way of expanding our minds and our horizons and experiencing. So seeing ourselves, as we said, but also seeing others in books. I love it. Mary, really good to talk to you. Thank you
you.
And the
very
best of
much
luck.
indeed.
Thank you very
Your
much.
novel.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.